Good evening, everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. Welcome to the News Today edition of 25th of June, where again we try and break down all important news of the day in a most simple format for students to understand, and which is equally good for preparing current affairs for this examination. So in this today's bulletin, we are going to cover news in two segments. One, firstly, we are going to cover the main newses, which are of the RBI has recently relaxed the priority sector lending targets for small finance banks. Then again, there has been a recent report of Sustainable Development Report of 2025, followed by Niti Aayog has released a report on data quality and its impact on governance, followed by there has been a completion of 100 years of a dialogue or conversation between Sree Narayana Guru and Mahatma Gandhi ji. And lastly, the Chief of Defense Staff has been empowered to issue joint directives. So these are the major news which we are going to cover, followed by news in short, that again Committee on Estimates has completed 75 years, followed by emergency procedure or emergency procurement of the defense equipments, followed by Navya Initiative, amended BharatNet program, black marks recovery technology, Tansen, critical and emerging technologies, and epigenetic programming, right? So we are going to cover all such things. So firstly, let's start with the first news, that is the relaxation of priority sector lending targets of small finance banks. So again, let's start with a very simple question to all of you, that why does RBI makes mandatory to all the banks to lend in priority sector? Right? Why don't banks generally lend to all the customers and all in all areas where again they earn maximum profit? Right? But RBI has made a rule which comes under the qualitative tool of the monetary policy, where again certain identified sectors in the economy which are required priority sector lending has been categorized under the priority sector lending targets of RBI, right? So two important concepts to be discussed in this is, one is what do we understand by priority sector lending and what do we understand by small finance banks. But again, we have seen the news talks about that again the priority sector lending targets of these small finance banks has been cut down from 75% to 60% in this recent update by the Reserve Bank of India. So again, RBI is issuing it under Section 2020 of the Banking Regulation Act. Very important fact for prelims examination. Many times they have been asking that whenever RBI does certain thing, which authority or which legislature or which legislative act authorizes RBI to do that, right? And of course, the timeline that it is going to be effective from 25 financial year 26, right? Nextly, what exactly is the new rules which we are going to discuss, right? So the new rules talk about, number one, that earlier the adjusted net bank credit, again एक term है, adjusted net bank credit. What exactly it means, that if a bank has, let's say, 100 rupees with itself, right? So adjusted net bank credit. So out of those 100 rupees, there are something which bank invest, maybe in the form of investments, right? Which is not coming under the bank credit, which the bank is supposed to give under the priority sector lending. Again, what kind of investment? Maybe in the ideas of investment in SLR, right? Whatever requirements are required by RBI. So whatever money is left with the bank, that is basically talk about the adjusted net bank credit, right? So if bank has a total of 100 rupees, again with it, among its credit, so out of those 100 rupees, earlier the small finance banks used or was mandatory for them to provide 75% of that to the priority sector lending, right? Now it has been revised to 60%. Then out of those 75%, 40% was mandatory to priority sector lending sectors, followed by 35% flexibility was given in terms of allocation. The change is still there. The change is showcasing that 40% still mandatory for priority sector lendings, and this 35% has been reduced to 20%. That is the flexible allocation component of the priority sector lending of the small finance banks. Clear? So very quickly, we'll see what exactly do we understand by and how it is going to help maybe the small finance banks. Because if you understand, these are very high risk loans, right? Because of course the sectors are priority sector, but again, it also comes with a cost that again, the risk associated with this kind of loans is very high, right? So with this initiative, how it is going to help the small finance bank? So the extra amount which is being left out of those 75% to 60% will be used by the small finance banks to maybe diversify their loan spending or loan giving criteria under this particular sector, right? So again, they can give loans against property or personal loans, which is going to reduce the risk diversifying beyond the microfinance institutions, right? Then nextly, when did priority sector lending started? So again, if you understand, this priority sector basically means the sectors of the economy which requires maybe a certain kind of boost from the government, right? So this priority sector lending started in the era of 1970. So earlier, if you understand, if you have read the 5-year model plans, till 1968, government was, or the planning commission was heavily pushing forwards for an industrial growth, which led to maybe backwardness of few important sectors of economy like agriculture and many and so, right? That is where it came up with the concept of priority sector lending, where again it was mandated that banks must give loans to the key sectors to support the idea of inclusive growth. Again, a component of your syllabus of GS paper number 3. Then there are few sectors. Again, all of these sectors you understand if you read them, your name it itself suggests that again how important they are in terms of the Indian economy: agriculture, MSMEs, education, housing, renewable energy. For example, if a bank is giving loan to a farmer to procure seeds, again an example of priority sector lending. If a bank is giving loan to a student for study or for education, it is coming under a priority sector lending, right? So this is a basic understanding of what do we understand by priority sector lending. Then the second concept, of course, here was small finance banks. So what are small finance banks? The name itself is just small banks. So again, there are sometimes, again, going by the idea of financial inclusion in the economy, it was observed that the banks have not, or the penetration of banking has not reached to the last man in the rural areas, right? That is where there are small farmers, there are small entrepreneurs, there are small agriculturists which do not have enough finance, right? So in the budget of 2014 and 2015, it was decided by the government that again they need to constitute a small finance bank. As simple, I'll give you through an example. That again, let's say, for example, if I am a vegetable seller in a village, I need to, let's say, buy a cart for selling my vegetables. So again, big banks are not maybe providing credit at this ease. So this is where the small finance banks comes into picture. If I am a tailor, I need to buy a sewing machine. Again, in this there is a provision under the small finance banks which is going to give loans to such last resort people, right? Then again, basic fundamentals are basic important facts which are very important for prelims examination, because we have seen that how through banking chapters, there have been very factual based questions which are asked in the examination, right? So they are registered under the Public Limited Company Acts of 2013, right? They are licensed under the Section 22 of the Banking Regulation Act of 1949, right? And objectives we have already discussed, right? And capital requirement, they require a minimum capital of 200 crores. And there is also a provision that, again, if an urban cooperative bank is transitioning itself to a small finance bank, then the initial net worth requirement shall not be 100 crores, which will have to be increased to 200 crores to meet the demand of it, right? That is a basic idea of this, all of small finance bank and priority sector lending. Clear? Now, moving on to the next topic, that is Sustainable Development Report. And again, the theme of the report was Financing Sustainable Development to 2030 and Mid-Century. Firstly, it is a very proud moment for India. Again, India for the very first time has improved and has entered into the top 100 countries under this particular report. So what are SDGs specifically? So SDGs are maybe in 2015, the world made 17 promises to itself. That again, there are certain areas, poverty, nutrition, all of those, we are going to make country or the development which is going to be sustainable for the future generation, right? So development does not only mean economic development, it also means development which is going to talk about social development, and at the same time keeping in mind that about the environment, right? So again, development along with keeping in needs or keeping in demand, that keeping in mind that what exactly this development is going to sustain for a longer duration of time, keeping in mind the social and environmental parameters into consideration. That is a broad idea of this sustainable development goals, right? So of course there are 17 goals, and again which are global promises which are made by all the countries, right? And if you understand, all of these SDGs are very interrelated to each other. I'll show you just a second that again, yes, if this is the SDG, no poverty, goal number 1, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water, affordable clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and lastly, parameters for the goal, right? So basically, if you see, all of these goals are very interrelated to each other. If a country has no poverty, then only it can provide the idea of zero hunger. If it has zero hunger, then only we can think about good health and well-being. If we had good health and well-being, then only we can talk about quality education. If people are educated, then only they can talk about gender equality. And all of these, if you look back and see, all of them are very interrelated to each other. Now, what does this report talks about, right? So India has improved for the very first time. It has entered in the top 100 countries, and it has secured a rank of 99th, which was 109th in 2024, right? So basically this report again talks about that how different countries are moving forward with respect to these 17 goals. And every year a report card is released. This report card talks about that how countries have been trying to achieve these 17 goals by 2030. Right. So again, very important prelims fact, it is released by United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, SDSN. Very important for prelims, because if you understand, many times they give you report and they ask which body releases it, or there would be one such option which will talk about that it is this report is released by which institution. Clear? Then, in terms of ranking, for the very first time, India has ranked 99th out of 167 countries for which the ranks have been given, right? And the SDG index is based on a score. Score is out of 100. If a country is getting 100 score, so it is performing very well and maybe most efficiently on all of these 17 parameters which I have discussed, right? So, and in fact, if you see, India is working very well towards these sustainable development goals, which is very effective, showcased through its performance in the last 5 years. आप 5 साल में देखोगे, India's ranking was in 2021, it was 120th. And from then, 21st, 112th, 19th, and 99th, we have done commendably well towards these sustainable development goals. And that is why it is very important. It is a very proud moment for India that again, it is performing well when it comes to the idea of sustainable development, right? Then very important specific points to be remembered for prelims examination. We need to also know that how our neighborhoods are also doing in terms of these sustainable development goals. Again, Bhutan has ranked 74th, followed by Nepal. Sri Lanka has got 93rd rank. Bangladesh has got 114th rank, right? Pakistan has got 140th rank, and Maldives has got 53rd rank, right? Then let's see globally that how has been the performance. Of course, the Scandinavian countries, Finland, Sweden, and Denmark has been the top 3 in terms, specifically in this particular report, right? And if you see very closely, all the 19 out of 20 countries are specifically from European countries. One reason could have been that the less population which with this region specifically have, right? Then China again has ranked 49th. United States of America has ranked 44th. Among all the G20 countries, Brazil has been ranking or getting the top rank with the 25th rank, followed by in the group of OECD countries, Chile has been ranked 7th, right? So these are the basic ranking parameters, which is important for your prelims examination. Next, what are the challenges which this report has highlighted, right? Coming to the challenges, it is telling that every country is trying maybe to achieve these sustainable development goals. This is the report has highlighted that. But again, the challenge which it has told that no country is on a right track as of now. And with this pace of achieving the sustainable development goals, the 2030 targets are not going to be met. This report has very clearly talked about it. Then, again, there is a concept of multilateralism. What is multilateralism? Maybe how countries are in the process of this development are aligning with the goals which are being set up by international institutions. For example, UN for this particular case, right? So if UN has set a target of sustainable development goals, then how far countries are maybe aligning with its developmental agenda, which is aligning with the goal which has been set up by UN. So Barbados is a country which has been ranked top in the UN Multilateralism Index, and United States of America strangely has got the lowest rank, right? Where again, the policies of United States is not aligning with the international institution policy specifically, which has been set up by the United Nations for this Sustainable Development Program, right? And India, of course, we have discussed altogether that India has a good news that again, we have improved from 109th to 90th rank, 99th rank in this particular year. Then, talking about challenges, that why do we see, this report has also told that why do we see a slow progress when it comes to achieving the sustainable development goals? Number one, the conflicts and war going on in the regions. Again, all of you are aware of the recent wars which have happened and how it is seen as an impediment in the idea of achieving sustainable development goals. Followed by, there is also a concept that rich nations are delaying support through developmental banks, that many a times, of course, the economic stance of different countries is not on an equal front. Developing countries need some financial support through some institutions which has a major maybe saying of these developed countries. So this is where there has been a lag in terms of financial support which has to be received by some developing countries in order to achieve the sustainable development goals. That has also been highlighted in this particular report. Followed by, there has been limited funds and weak economics, specifically in the poorer countries, which we have discussed. So these are the reasons for slow progress, which this report has specifically highlighted. Now, coming to the data. Again, all of you must have seen the sustainable development reports which I showcased you. This picture is slightly different. This picture showcases on these parameters that on all the parameters which are there under sustainable development goals, where does the world stand? Maybe if removing poverty is concerned, there is a green arrow mark which is showing on track or maintaining sustainable development achievement. So again, please read on all such parameters, in which parameter we need to work more and in which parameter we are going or we are on the right particular track. And very important that if you see all the 17 goals, it is very important for students to remember these 17 goals very clearly. Why? Because if you look at the syllabus of your examination of paper 2, 3, and 1, right, primarily the subtopics are revolving around these 17 sustainable development goals. So in your answer writing enrichment, in conclusions of your answers, you can specifically talk about all of these goals wherever it is fitting up, right? So very, very important that again you remember all these 17 goals very specifically, and whenever a question around that particular theme comes up, try and explicitly mention that goal in your answers, which is going to give you a certainly and maybe half marks or 1 mark more as compared to a student who has not written that particular aspect, right? Again, the more you value at your answers, the more marks you're going to get in the examination. Next, in terms of the process or the key takeaways which we can take up from this particular report is, number one, that India is improvement is there, but again, the progress is slow. Right, we need to pace up with the idea of achieving the 17 goals. Then it is also highlighted that again, sustainable development is not only the idea which government should only promote through its policies. It is equal responsibility of the people of the country also to achieve the idea of sustainable development. For example, maybe many times we use a lot of resources in a most inefficient manner. Switching off the lights, maybe filling up a glass of water only to the quantity what you want to drink, right? These are the changes which people can bring in their lifestyle, which is going to go by the idea of sustainable development, right? And then there's a theme which says that again, together we can help create a fairer, cleaner, and a better future. That's all for this particular topic. Now moving to the next topic. Niti Aayog. So Niti Aayog has recently released a report which has highlighted there is an urgent need for better data and quality and digital governance, right? So maybe I'll ask you one question. Many times while using certain government services, we have faced delays. For example, maybe whenever you go to update your Aadhaar card, or maybe whenever you go to get any scholarship fund which has been given to you, or maybe updating your ration card information, or any such thing. Have you faced delays? Right. So this report has told that delay, one of the reasons of delay is the data which this digital infrastructures have been using, right? So for better governance, the report has highlighted that the next step is to make sure that the digital systems runs on good, clean, and accurate data, and not just large amount of data. Because we have seen that again, India has performed well when it comes to digital public infrastructure like Aadhaar platforms, like UPI platform. But again, the data which it is using, right, that needs to be maybe a little bit in terms of refined, so that again, good governance with the good use of data through this digital public infrastructure can be achieved, right? Then let's discuss that what is the quality of a good data. Data is being discussed. So let's say, how do I classify that whether a data is good data or not a good data, right? So again, the data needs to be accurate in terms of the correct information should be there in the database, followed by the data should be complete, that there should be no missing details which are required in that particular data. Followed by there has to be a timely updation of the data at the very right time, followed by the data should be consistent across all systems, because departments need not to work in silos, right? So again, there has to be data integration across all systems, followed by the data need to be validated, right? Example, to follow the right rules, for example, correct Aadhaar format. Then lastly, data should be unique and no duplicacy of data should be there in the system. I give an example. Many times what we see, if a person has 2 ration cards by mistake, right? So which parameters of this data do you think is responsible for? Number 1, validation. Number 2, uniqueness, right? This is where maybe how do we classify whether our data is good or bad, right? Then followed by, why do we need quality data and governance? Why do we need it? Number 1, for smooth delivery of services, because this digital public infrastructure is providing services to the people. That, for example, UPI payments, Aadhaar-based link benefits. If data is not right, how you are expecting that this digital public infrastructure should be performing well in those parameters, right? Followed by, to save money, the report also tells that the bad data can waste 4 to 7% of welfare budgets every year, right? Then lastly, again, a good governance is characterized by the trust of people over this infrastructure, and specifically the digital public infrastructure. So again, in order to build trust, If services fail or are delayed because of bad data, people lose faith in the system. That is why we require a quality data in governance, right? But where are the challenges, right? So if I talk about ki data is not right, so where does the challenge lies? Number one is data entered are in hurry. So with hurry, what do you believe? There is a chances of error. That has been one issue which has been highlighted in this particular report. Followed by different systems store data differently, so they do not connect well. In fact, is one important problem with the system of governance is the departments are working in silos. Every department has their own data, and these data is not integrated to each other, right? And in fact, they have a different models of collection and incorporation of data into the governance system. That is making a very important challenge in terms of data integration. Then old data are not cleaned up, right? This is again leading to systems getting slow and leaky. Followed by data sharing between departments is messy. There is no integration of data, which I have already discussed. So these are major challenges when it comes to data. Then what does this Niti Aayog has given solution? This report, after highlighting the issues, has also given two solutions. Number one is you improve data quality, and every year Niti Aayog will be giving a data quality scorecard, right? So every department will get a scorecard, and which will highlight the a report card would highlight that for government data to track and improve the quality, right? And secondly, data quality maturity framework. That again, the data which is collected, how far and how good it is, how good that data is, how mature the data is, that has also to be determined. There has been 7 parameters which has been given on which data maturity has to be defined. So these are 2 suggestions which has been proposed by Niti Aayog in this particular report, right? Then again, this is whole going by the idea of one important thing, that again, India has a digital India mission. We have digital public infrastructure. All of this will be achieved to its truest potential when we have good data. Again, that is where this line talks about. This report is a reminder that digital India is not just about apps and platforms, but it's about reliable data behind the scenes that makes everything work in a better manner. Clear? Now, moving to the next news, right? So recently, our Honorable Prime Minister has visited in the centenary of the historic conversation which happened between Sri Narayana Guru and Mahatma Gandhi ji in the year 1925, right? So 1925, today we are at 2025. So again, it has completed 100 years. Many times students ask that again, sir, does history has any current affairs? Yes, history has current affairs. And again, this is where some anniversary years, 100 years or something, 75 years or something, 25 years or something, 50 years or something, that brings that historical event back in news. And that back in news event gives UPSC a scope to ask specific question in the examination. It is not me telling, it is my observation from previous question analysis, which is putting forward this viewpoint that again, whenever anniversary years are there has been questions in prelims and in mains examination, right? So again, one more question to you, that why do such leaders met back in the 100 years back, and what did they talked about, right? So in this particular conversation which happened between Sri Narayana Guru and Mahatma Gandhi ji, which was happening at Sivagiri Mutt, again very important fact for your prelims examination, right? Then what was the topic of discussion? What they wanted to discuss? Number one, how to fight untouchability. They discussed this, followed by how to make sure that the lower caste should enter temples, because again, caste-based discrimination was there, untouchability was there, lower caste, upper caste feeling was there. Again, temple entry was not allowed to lower caste people. So all of these things were discussed in this particular event, and that is where a very important satyagraha was again coming into picture. It is the Vycom satyagraha, again important fact for your prelims examination. Then followed by how non-violence can be used as a tool to bring a social change, that was being discussed, followed by how to improve the lives of the poor. So these were the few topics on which there was a meeting which was being held and a conversation was there between these two prominent social figures. Right. So let's discuss briefly the philosophy difference between Mahatma Gandhi ji and Sri Narayana Guru. Right. So all of you know that the idea of Mahatma Gandhi ji is talking about the non-violence. So he thinks that through non-violence, it is a supreme spiritual force and a path to God. Right. And in this process of non-violence, compassion automatically comes out. What is compassion? That is, someone is suffering from something. I should feel that same pain. I should be very much compassionate about that particular person. I should be having a zeal so that I can take that person out of that particular pain which he or she is experiencing. That is compassion, right? So again, the difference here is he talks about non-violence, and again, he thinks compassion is one of the virtue which is coming itself from maybe practicing non-violence. And this is where the philosophy differentiate when it comes to Sri Narayana Guru, where again, his philosophy starts from compassion, which is the core of the Advaita philosophy, right? And again, he tells that the compassion includes non-violence and all the duties, right? And he itself tells that again, non-violence is naturally coming down if people are compassionate and if people are a follower of Advaita philosophy. Non-violence would automatically come to that particular person. This is where a slight difference between the philosophies of Mahatma Gandhi ji and Sri Narayana Guru ji. Again, very important for upcoming mains examination, where again 100 years have been completed. You need to remember these two personalities which are there in the news, right? Then when it comes to, let's discuss how do we see that again, it has been 100 years. And still these topics are being talked about. Then why it is important? Because, and how are these philosophies are still relevant in today modern times? Number one, his idea, Narayan Guru's ideas of one caste, one religion, one God. Again, it is relevant today itself in the ideas of fighting against discrimination happening in our societies. Then he also talked about that how to bring people together no matter what religion or caste they belong to. And that is the idea where again you talk about a lot of things happening in the society where again we are trying, governments are making policies inclusive in nature, right? So that all of these social evils have to be taken out from the society. Lastly, his support for temple entry movements like Vaikom Satyagraha reminds us to stand up for social justice. So all of these things, if you understand with the idea of social discrimination, elimination, peace in society, these ideas of these prominent leaders are still relevant in today's society as well, right? Then, in terms of basic information, very important. If the personality is in news, you need to know about the basic facts, which is very important for your prelims examination. So you basically that when he was born, that again he was a saint, he was a poet, he was a philosopher, he was a social reformer, right? Followed by he fought against caste system, he promoted spiritual equality. Then again he founded the SNDP program, that again the Sri Narayan Dharma Paripalana Yogam. All of these are very important facts which you need to remember for your prelims examination, because we have seen that again how questions on personalities are a recurring theme in the prelims as well as mains examination when it comes to specifically the topic of history. Right. Now, let's discuss the last main news, that again CDS, that is Chief of Defence Staff, has been empowered for joint orders. I'll give you one example. All of you know about Indian cricket team. Indian cricket team has a head coach, right? And it also has a bowling coach, a batting coach, and a fielding coach. Imagine a situation where again there is no head coach, right? And at the very same time, a player has the bowling coach is giving directions to the bowler, fielding coach is giving directions to the fielders, and batting coach is giving directions to the batters. There is no uniformity, right? And this is the same situation which has been happening many a times when it comes to the three defense sectors, right? That there is no uniformity in the directions which has been given by the defense staffs, right? That is where the new reform which has been proposed is a very welcoming one, where again, the defense minister has authorized the chief of defense staff to issue joint orders for army, navy, and air force, so that again they work in sync with each other, right? And it is replacing the old system where again separate orders were given for all army, navy, and air force, right? So again, it is big step towards jointness and integration of armed forces. So two terms which comes into the picture is jointness and integration. So what does it mean? So jointness basically means that if we use all of the three in serious, and if we use them together, which will have more impact, which will have more power, which will have more impact in terms of defense services. That is where integration or jointness talks about, that again, using the strength of all three forces together without wasting any effort, right? For example, Navy plus Air Force plus Army supporting each other's in one plan. For example, there's a natural calamity happening in any particular state. So again, of course, defense has a role to play. So again, in terms of relief efforts, all of these three could come together, and again, this is where jointness is going to make that process of dealing with that natural calamity in a most efficient manner. Then in terms of integration, that again, combining the parts of forces into a single structure. For example, like creating a theater command. For a theater command, that again, one command which is giving directions to all three of them, right? Wherein Army, Navy, and Air Force units work as one under a single commander, right? That is the idea that has been proposed, and is a very welcoming step which is being discussed over here, right? And then why it is important? What would be the benefits? Number one, it would avoid duplication. Number two, it would save time and resources. And number three, it would make defense operations stronger and smoother in nature. Very, very generic and very self-understood topics. Then in terms of what has been the steps towards jointness and integration in India as far as now, number one, integrated theater commands, that is ITCs, which is combining forces in different regions for specific tasks. So, for example, there has been a Western commander in that particular area. That commander is giving directions to all three areas, that is Army, Navy, and Air Force. That has been the idea with respect to integrated theater commands. Then CDS appointments, that is one leader has been bringing, which will be leading the entire jointness of all of these three, right? Then in terms of inter-service organization rules, that again, if we are maybe creating a uniformity, there has to be some better command and disciplined units, right? And then in terms of DMAs and HQIDS, where again, there has been under the Ministry of Defense, there has been a specific department which has been created, which will take into consideration all of these things. And the Chief of Defense Staff is again the secretary of that particular department, right? And in India, there are joint commanders. Their examples are there. For example, the Andaman and Nicobar Command, right? Where again, there is an example where again, there is a joint command which is being followed as of now, right? So lastly, that why does this matter for India? Because defense is very important thing which we have seen very recently, right? So in today's world, quick decisions and coordinated actions are a key to security, right? And the CDS new powers mean our armed forces can act faster and smarter together, right? Then now discussing about moving to the next segment, that is places in news, right? Very important, because many times we have seen, specifically in prelims examination, there are some places which comes in the newspapers, and on those places there is a geography location based questions in the prelims examination, right? So whenever in this news today, every day we are talking about one place in news. So again, at the very same time, we are preparing that particular map based location, which is very important for your prelims examination preparation, right? So recently there has been South Africa was in news, right? Why it was in news? Because India South Africa submarine cooperation agreement has been signed very recently. That has made this place back in news. So whenever reading a place in news, you need to read two basic features. One is some geographical features, some political features, maybe important oceans or important seas, important mountains, important cities, important neighboring states, east, west, northwest location, all of those, because these are the areas where again UPSC has asked questions very frequently in the examination, right? So go and see this particular map, and that is where every day you need to see the place in news. That is where you're preparing one place every day, right? So all the parameters, again, recently the context was in terms of India and South Africa has signed agreements for submarine cooperation, right? And again, the South Africa, again, basic locations. South Africa has 3 capitals. One is administrative capital, legislative capital, and a judicial capital. Very important. Again, a prelims fact. Then, in terms of location, that again, where again, which country is located at which location from South Africa? Again, an important thing. Important seas, important geographical features, mineral resources, important rivers, mountains. Where do they drain to? All of these are very important, which is where you are going to prepare the place in news for your prelims examination, right? Then coming to the news in shorts, quick updates on those. Number one, the Estimates Committee has completed its 75 years, again from 1950 to 2025. Again, as I discussed in the 100 years wala current affairs, whenever anniversary year is there, that topic becomes very important for the next year upcoming examination, right? Again, 75 years of Estimate Committee, we have studied the topic of parliamentary committees. There are different parliamentary committees which are supporting the parliament in terms of the legislative work. What kind of role do they play, what has been a change in them? All of these are very important. So again, this topic was in news, right? So the basic information you're going to read about the committee is it was formed in the year 1950, right? And it is the longest financial committee of the parliament. Basic facts, right? Other than the Public Accounts Committee and Committee on Public Underwritings, right? There are 30 members. Again, very important prelims question, all from Lok Sabha only, right? The ministers are not eligible to become a part of this particular committee, right? Chairperson is chosen by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, as again, members from Lok Sabha only, right? And the tenure of this committee is of 1 year. What does they do? What are their functions? Basically, they review government's expenditure plans, that is estimates. That's why the name Estimates Committee. They suggest savings, economics, and organizational improvements. They propose alternative policies for a greater efficiency, right? And they recommend better ways to present estimates to the parliament. The basic features, read about it, very important. And this particular committee, as it has completed 75 years, important topic for the examination. Next, news in short, emergency procurement in defense. I'll take you through, again, an example of cricket. Let's say if you are playing a game of cricket, right? And one night before the match, your bat is broken. So whether you're going to write it to the BCCI, you need to take approval that, again, I need to buy a new bat. And for this, you need approval. And the match is the very next day. Or what you'll do, you'll buy the bat by yourself, and again, let's see what will happen. That is where this emergency procurement in defense comes into picture, where again, there are some situations during the defense operations where again, procurement of some important defense equipments is required on an immediate basis, and there could be no delay in the paperwork which the defense system can afford. This is where the emergency procurement comes into picture, right? So in the matters of emergency, right, there should be no paperwork. There should be immediate procurement of the defense equipments which is being required for that particular operation. That is why this news talks about, right? So again, it is a mechanism to fast track defense purchase for urgent operational needs, right? Followed by, it skips the lengthy standard procurement process for speedy and flexibility. Number one, when it was introduced, again, we have seen there have been multiple operations which India has faced in terms of defense. For example, the 2016 surgical strikes, the 2019 Balakot airstrike, and 2020 Ladakh standoff. After this, it was understood that, again, we require this particular mechanism, right? And then recently, what it has seen that, again, the armed forces can use up to 50% of capital budget for the emergency buys, right? And there has been a quick purchase of weapons, equipments, and spare to refill the stocks. And this particular emergency procurement has achieved its 6th phase, and the focus is on situational awareness, mobility protection for troops in the counter-terrorism operations, right? So again, that is where this particular feature is very welcoming step when it comes to the procurement in terms of defense services. Then We talk about Navya vocational training. So basically, this is a joint initiative of two ministries. One is Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship and Ministry of Women and Child Development. They are targeting adolescent girls. Adolescent girls specifically comes in the age group of 16 to 18 years, wherein skill have to be given to these women under this particular initiative. And again, for the skill development, it has been interlinked with vocational training in the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, right? And again, there is an idea that again, skills should go beyond the traditional skills. It should not the sieving or maybe talk about basic skills. There has to be a little upgradation of that. For example, there is training which is being given on graphic designing, smartphone technicians, drone assembly experts, so that again these adolescent girls can become independent financially and could be a potential entrepreneurs in the future, right? Next, amended BharatNet program. So again, all of you know about what is BharatNet program, where again the all gram panchayats, where again there is no broadband services. That was the basic idea of this BharatNet project, and this has moved one step further with an idea of amended BharatNet project. Again, this was in news. Why? Because Gujarat has become the very first state to implement the new amended BharatNet project under the state-led model, right? So basically, this is working on basic parameters you need to read, very important facts for your prelims, that again how much gram panchayats have been done, and it is using ring topology, which is a circular network for stronger connection. Many times what we see, there is a failure of broadband connection. With this ring technology coming into picture, even if one line fails, the other line is maintaining a seamless connectivity without any breakage of the broadband services. That is a basic key feature of this ring topology, which is being used in this optical fiber network, right? So all of these basic features, please read what are the basic requirements, maintenance, operation, all of those, very important. Next news is black mass recovery technology. Many times, very important thing which we read about environment is how this battery waste can be reused or not. So this technology talks about that. Again, in batteries, there are certain critical minerals inside old lithium batteries. For example, lithium, cobalt, and nickel, right? Which can be refined and reused for the new batteries. So this technology that we call as black mass recovery is recovering these important valuable materials, lithium, cobalt, and nickel, from the old lithium batteries. So again, going by the idea of sustainability, going by the idea of reusing of certain old batteries, this is where it comes into picture. So that is where the technology all talks about. That again, recycling process that extracts these valuable metals from the unused batteries, from the used batteries, sorry, and uses dual mode technology, which is combining wet plus dry process. Basic questions ye पूछ सकते हैं in your upcoming prelims examination. They can give you a question. Please read the following statements about black mass recovery technology, and they'll give you 4 or 5 statements. And this could be the statements in your examination, right? So please read all of them. Why it is important? Because again, it is supporting the idea of clean energy. It is supporting the idea of circular economy, right? It is reducing the dependence on import of raw materials, where again, raw materials are recovered from the old batteries, right? It is promoting the idea of environmental friendly recycling, right? And recently, the Technology Development Board has supported commercializing this indigenous technology in India. That is why it was in news. Then we talk about Tansen, again, very important. Again, he was in the field of music. He was under the 9 jewels in the courts of Akbar, right? So again, it was in news. Why? Because very recently, the Madhya Pradesh High Court has denied that the permission of religious and cultural activities at the tomb of Hazrat Sheikh Muhammad Ghaus, where Tansen's grave is also located. That is why this topic was in news. And again, Tansen as a historical figure is in news. Basic facts about Tansen, you are supposed to read. His birthplace, where again he was born, the title, what is given, again the contributions in the Hindustani classical music, and again an important component of your Indian art and culture section, right? And he composed what all things Drupad on Hindu deities and for patrons like say Ramachandra Vaga and Akbar, right? So again, he was again the part of Navratnas, again the 9 jewels in the Akbar's court, right? So all of the famous ragas, again all the important points for your art and culture section of films examination. Now, the next topic, Critical and Emerging Technologies Index. So again, this index is released by which body? Harvard Kennedy School. It talks about that global index to how the 25 countries are performing on these parameter of artificial intelligence, biotechnology, semiconductors, space, and quantum technology, right? Then how 25 countries are being assessed on which parameters, and how all of these technologies are contributing in terms of measured on geopolitical significance, GDP contribution, systematic leverage, dual use potential, all of these, right? And it has highlighted that the top performers are US, China, and Europe, and India is lagging specifically in the domain of semiconductor devices, right? That is where again, this Critical and Emerging Technology Index talks about. Very important. Next, epigenetic programs, motherless means breaking. For the very first time, it was a long research topic where again, recently, two male me's, that is, the two male me's has been used in the sperm cells have been used, where again, offspring has been brought down by two male me's. That is something which is being discussed and is very breakthrough technology. We talks about this, where again, the Chinese scientists have created a very fertile me's from two male parents for the very first time, right? And they have achieved using DNA editing, epigenetic programming, where again, me's were healthy and fertile, and again, no mother was needed for their reproduction, right? So read about what is epigenetics. Epigenetics is basically the study of heritable changes wherein the gene expression without changing the DNA sequence, right? And these changes decide which genes are turned on and off, right? And what is this programming all about? It is adding or modifying chemical tags on DNA that control gene activity. Basically, you use maybe many times in your books, you use, let's say, tags to figure out any chapter or any book page. That is where this technology also talks about. Again, significance in terms of what? In terms of new reproductive tools, better understanding of gene regulation, and medical innovations, right? Then, lastly, again, after this particular news in short section, all important prelims-based questions which could have been framed from the topic what we have discussed will pop up on your screen. It is very important that you solve these questions, because the purpose of news for all of the aspirants who are preparing for examination is to clear the examination. In examination, there could be prelims-based questions or objective questions or a mains-based question, right? So make sure that after reading the news in today, right, you solve the questions. And Vision IS has come up with a very beautiful initiative, that is Digital Current Affairs, which is a one-stop solution for all current affairs issues for this examination. So please go and explore this particular website of Digital Current Affairs of Vision IS, which is a one-stop solution for all current affairs. So all the very best. Good night to all of you. Thank you so much.